you've got to get this dress hemmed before the event. But when you look inside, the lining has a lining? What are we supposed to do here? You might be thinking, I can't do this. I have to send this one to the professional seamstress. No, you don't. You can do this. I'm going to show you every step of the way. So hemming a dress that has a double layer lining is just as easy as hemming a dress the normal way. It's just a different process, and it's a process that I do all the time. So I'm going to show you every step of this process so that it can go smoothly for you, and so you can have a finished hemmed dress at the end without spending that money with the seamstress. So let's go. Step one, we need to make a game plan. So we have all these pins that were marking the floor when I had the dress on the client. So we need to make a note of all the main points of reference. So back seam, how many inches we're removing, side seam, how many inches we're removing, front, all that. So if you want to be taken through this process a little more, check out the video. The thumbnail says full tutorial, and then it says sewing deep dives, hemming a formal dress. That one's going to take you through all this. So we're going to be flipping this lining inside out, and then we won't be able to see what's the back, what's the front, etc. So we need to label them, and we need our labels on the inside. So we're going to just open up a bit of this here, which we have to open up this anyway so that we can fit the whole dress through it. So we just need to take our seam ripper and go near the back seam or any other point that you plan to label, and just get in there with your seam ripper and get those stitches opened up. Once you get started, it just kind of wants to go. So we can make this opening pretty big, maybe 6 or 7 inches, so we can easily fit the whole dress through it, just for this first one. But the other holes that we open for labeling really don't have to be very big at all. This is my new grip fit seam ripper that we carry. I love these. Very ergonomic. And then it has the little eraser tool for all the loose threads. So we've got a nice opening. So now I'm going to get a piece of paper and I'm just going to label this back. Okay, so this is so I will know once I get inside here. Okay, so I'm going to, it doesn't matter which side you label, they're going to come together. So just pick one of the pieces and go right there. Now we know that's the back. You'll be surprised how helpful this will be. So just find all of your points, like side seam, maybe center front, whatever points of reference that you have on your particular dress, just open up that and label them. Okay, so here, this is the side seam for the lining. So again, we'll just open that up. So there's the 2 layers, and then there's a line of stitching that you can't see in there that's holding these together. So I'm just going to go in there and start getting that opened up. Okay, just enough that we can label it. So I'm going to write side. And you can even write if it's the left or front, or left or right side if that matters. But my sides are the same, so I'm just going to put side. And then pin it inside there. I have had such a frustrating time in the past. Even when it's not inside out, it's hard to tell where you are on the dress, but once you flip it inside out and the entire bodice is not accessible, this has been a game changer for me. Okay, so just label all your parts and then I'll show you what to do next. Once you have labeled all of your seams, it's time to stick your hand inside the opening and we're going to pull the entire dress through this opening. So just reach all the way in as far as you can, all the way to the bodice, and grab the top of that dress and start pulling it through. You'll know you have it all because everything will go inside and you'll just be left with the hole and you'll see your tag there. So now we're just going to flatten this out so that we can fold this right at the old stitching line. So next we're going to consult our piece of paper for how many inches need to be taken from each area. So the back seam, I need to take 12 inches. So we're measuring from where the original stitch was. So you can see all the little dots where you remove the stitching. That's where you're going to measure from. And then the 12 inches, we can mark it with a pin, or you can use a marking pencil of some kind to mark where you're going to sew. But this is where I'm going to sew at 12 inches on the back seam. Next, let's move to one of the side seams. So here's the left side. I'm just going to flatten it out. And look at your piece of paper. So I need to take 9 inches from the sides. So I'll measure from the old line of stitching to 9 inches and mark that with a pin or a pencil. So just do that all the way around for all the points that you need to mark. If you find that yours was bubbling up and not laying flat, it could be because you didn't have the seam pinned to the seam. So you want to make sure that where this stitching line is, when you flip it over, that pin's actually coming through the stitching line and not just over here. So you need to make sure that your line of stitching is actually lined up so that you're really marking the seam and not just some spot over here on the other side. Okay, now I'm over at the sewing machine and I'm going to begin sewing on this line. So I have my machine threaded with a matching color thread, and I'm just going to start here. I'm going to find the back seam. Nope, this is the left side. I want to start at the back seam so we can leave a big opening just where it was. Here we go. So I'm going to start in front of the seam a little bit so that the hole is left at the seam. Okay, and I have made my line just with pins, so I'm going to drop the pressure foot down. And I have my stitch length to about 3. Okay, so we're just going to begin sewing along this line. Is this making sense? Okay, good. So I know you guys are loving the videos, and a lot of you have told me that you play them several times during the process of fixing your garments in your sewing space, and I think that's awesome. It makes me really happy that this is helping you, but I know it's super frustrating to have to search through a video for information. So for that reason, I have made an ebook. So the ebook is all about formal hems. So now you can get this ebook, you can have it on your device, you can also print it out or print parts of it out and keep it in your sewing space. So that way when you're working on these dresses, you can just have that to quickly reference. It's on your phone, it's on your device, it's on a piece of paper. You don't need an internet connection, you don't need to scrub through videos. You can quickly at a glance see all the information that you need to see. So if you would like to check out that ebook, I will leave the link in the description below, and it's going to be discounted from now until when it releases as a pre-order price. So I hope you'll check that out, and I'm sure it's going to help you. All right, back to the video. So just continue like that all the way around until you come back to almost the back seam, and we'll stop and leave an opening. Okay, so we're coming up to the back seam, so I'm just going to sew a little bit further. And here's where my stitching began, so I have a gap, and this is going to be where I stop so that I can flip the dress back through this hole. So I'm going to stop and take the dress out now. Okay, now that we have sewn all the way around, we're going to cut off the excess. So look for where your stitch is, and then we're going to cut up this and leave maybe just a 1/2 inch or so and just cut off all this excess. And now we're back at the beginning. Here's where we started cutting. Here's our gap for flipping. So just cut all that off, and you'll have just a big piece here to get rid of. So now we are ready to flip the dress back right side out through the hole. So just stick your hand back in that hole and reach all the way up and as far as you can, and get that bodice and pull it through that hole. And then just grab it from the top and kind of shake it out. Get it all oriented correctly. And then once you do that, we're going to go over to the ironing board. Okay, now we are at the ironing board, and we are just going to make sure that we roll our seam forward or back so that the seam is at the exact edge. So once the seam's right at the edge, then we'll just give it a little press. And it's always good to cover it with a pressing cloth first, since we're using a synthetic fabric that might melt. So just cover, press, and then you can even follow with the tailor's clapper for a more crisp press. Oops. Make sure it stays rolled the right way. So when you put your cloth, just be really careful like that. Make sure your iron isn't set too high since we're working with synthetics. And just like that. So we'll just move through and do this to the whole hem of the dress. You can see how if you didn't do this, it would just look kind of floppy and not very crisp. So we want to pinch, find that seam, pull it to the edge, make sure it's truly at the edge, and then press it. And then when you come to where your opening was for flipping, we'll treat that in just the same way. We'll push all those raw edges to the inside, and it's going to line right up with the rest of that seam. And then we're just going to press that. And just stick a few pins in this section. This is the only part that we have to sew again. So if you want this to be an invisible stitch, you're going to have to do this part by hand. But since this is the lining on this dress, I am going to do it by machine. So I'm just going to take it over to the sewing machine and backstitch, sew real close to the edge till I have closed that hole, and then backstitch again. Alright, now we're just going to find where the hole begins. You can see little strings here, and this is where the hole was left. So we just want to start a little bit back from that to make sure we get it all. So we're just going to go here, and I'm going to just stitch really close to the edge, probably like 1/8 of an inch from the edge of that. Lower my needle, start with the back stitch. And then just continue forward, staying close to that edge and making sure I get both layers. and end with a back stitch. All right, now we can take it out and we're all done. All right, friends, thanks for checking out the video. I hope this was helpful. If it was, please give my video a like. You know that means so much to me when you do that. And please consider subscribing to the channel. Every week we put out a video on sewing inspiration, sewing alterations, sewing projects, machine maintenance, all kinds of things like that. So please consider subscribing to the channel if you found this valuable. Also, if you're feeling like you love all this information and you'd like to have it more at the ready when you're in your sewing space, please check out my new ebook. This is a guide for all kinds of hems on formal dresses, and it's going to be so helpful for you because you won't have to scrub through these videos every time you need an answer on what step to do next in your sewing. You'll be able to have this ebook on your phone, on your tablet. You can even print it out and have it next to you, and then you'll always be able to quickly reference all this information just at a glance. So you're going to save so much time, which saves money, which saves frustration. So check out my ebook at the link below. I know you guys are going to love it, and I can't wait to see what you think. So thank you so much for that and for watching the video. I appreciate you guys so much, and until next time, happy sewing.